everyone! Hope you guys are all doing super swimmingly. We in St. Louis have had some absolutely horrible weather over the last 2 weeks. Somehow it not only was really hot, but decided it wanted to rain almost every day as well, which of course halts all the work I can do out here. Humidity is no joke, and it's been an extremely humid last few weeks. That being said, I have still got a decent amount done out here, but of course not as much as I would like. Let's go over some of the little bits I got done out here. Welcome back. Now let's go over this really horrible job I did trying my hand at masonry. Most things here are not perfectly level, and this area right here is really the problem part. This side of the wall I got pretty good, and probably won't need much adjustment. This front area I just kind of didn't get it right, and I'm not super happy with it. As you can see, I've got a bit of a curve here, which isn't super exciting. But there was, again, two really big factors in why this was really difficult for me to do. A, I wasn't really able to take my time because I was fighting two really annoying elements. One being the heat, the other being mosquitoes. Because it has been so hot and it has rained so much, the mosquito population has bloomed. They've gone absolutely nutty here in St. Louis. And then with the heat, you're just sweating, you're perpetually wet, you're being bitten, 10 times a minute. So it was a very frustrating experience to try to get this done. Now the reason why that section was so bad in the first place is right here. This is all the evidence you really need. This had full on grown from the ground, obviously, grown up the side of the garage and up on and bloomed up here on the roof. And as you can see, I've dug a lot of this soil out of here, so somehow there's just way too much soil here, which isn't helpful for the mortar either. That plant had gotten so big and so crazy that it actually grew into the mortar and replaced it completely. There were bricks that were completely stuck together by just vines. As you can see here is some of the mortar there that these vines had picked up and grabbed. And that right there is the root, which is huge. Again, more of the brick here. These things were just really gross. And it really just destroyed that entire corner of brick. Of course, that's now gone, and at least we are stable. In this corner anyways. So if you guys have watched the Little Machine episode, you might know why I'm actually working on this garage to begin with. And that's because this is going to be part of the new shop. A new portion will be built here, and making this about 1,000 square feet of workspace for me. But this I have currently on site, so we're working on this. Here are two concepts for what this whole thing is going to end up looking like, or at least in an ideal world. This first one's done by my buddy Marvin. Shout out to Marvin over in Portland. And the second one's a little sketch from what I've done. You can see that we plan on having two garage doors here, which means this opening will have to be cut to be a second garage door. And there's actually two garage doors in the back of this structure as well. So essentially this will be full pass-through. The reason I'm doing that is because when you have really long runs of wood, you can expand the space. So it's not restricted by the size of this building. I can actually open it up, and we get very little alley traffic back here, so it really shouldn't be a problem. So I'm going to try to keep this center column here, but take this column out. And essentially, because, and it might be somewhere to see, but I actually have to replace this top bit of brick anyways, because there's a big dip right here, almost like a smiley face. It's pretty beat up. So what I'm thinking about doing is buying some steel I-beams and either running a single one across or running two across, and using this center beam as the support for both garage doors, which will do a lot better than just whatever this plate steel is they used here. I-beams are a little stronger than that. And I did measure these out. That opening is exactly 8 foot. This one is like 8'4", so they'll be close enough, and I don't feel like I need to add anything over here. And it doesn't have to be exact, it just has to be pretty close. Of course, as I said before in one of the last videos, the roof itself is completely coming off. This thing is really rotten. All the beams on the inside are not doing too great, so all of that's going to have to be replaced. And here's an overview of essentially what these two buildings will look like next to each other. And essentially that represents right in front of this pipe here, which is the clean out for the new sewer system we put in. So we do have to take this into consideration. We'll have to do some slightly structural things to make sure I'm not putting too much pressure on top of that pipe. But that pipe is also 15 feet down right here and probably 12 feet down here. So it's already so far underground, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. And I've already started collecting some of the materials that I'm going to be using to build this. So here's a sampling of what you saw me and Kim just clean up. These here are actually joists. They're from just down the street on St. Louis Avenue from an old commercial building. It is again unfortunate the building had to come down, but if I can at least grab some of the pieces and put them back into use, I think it's at least an appropriate use for these materials. These beams here are from a building on Cass Avenue that they recently torn down. Again, same thing. It's an extremely sad story. It sucks to lose another building. But these beams are absolutely gorgeous and I got a fantastic deal on them. So I have 6 of these larger types. I believe they are 12 by 8 and 4 of the smaller types down there, as you can see. One that's in pretty rough shape, but the other 3 are really good. And those ones I believe are 8 by 6s or somewhere around that size. I mean, they're really substantial boards. And here are 3 of them that I just got recently that weren't included in the time lapse. They were the last few that they pulled out. But look how massive these beams are. They're huge. They're crazy and they're super heavy timbers and will be fantastic structural members for the new shop, and they fit the era. They even have chamfered edges. So you can see the little chamfer there, and these run all the way up, which is a nice little detail to have on something like this. And so I figured, you know, the really big ones are my 4 corners. The smaller ones will be used for other smaller supports within the structure. And now I just need to find some really substantial cross members. And essentially I'm gonna put this together like Amish people build their barns. And it's going to be a very heavy timber, really strong structure. And it's going to be fairly cheap because, believe it or not, I paid $25 for these. And these are old growth longleaf pine beams. They are all over 12 foot. I mean, to be entirely honest, I kind of can't believe I got the deal I did on this. If I can continue finding things like this around the city, unfortunate as it is, again, to have lost these structures, if I can repurpose some of this stuff, I mean, you know, I could put together a lot of houses with that amount of lumber. But you know, boards like this, now I definitely need them as structural members. But in later dates, I could mill this stuff up in the workshop, and this is the exact same wood that most of my house's trim is in. It's this old longleaf pine. And finding enough of this stuff is actually really difficult. So you actually have to go old growth almost. You have to find reclaimed lumber. And you know, think about how much trim is just in these 3 beams. I mean, these 2 alone, really. So I guess it's one of those really rare opportunities where living in a city that does a lot of demolition can be slightly advantageous to me to help save the city. I'm sure it won't be a great source of wood forever, but at least for what I need right now, it's a good way to collect enough lumber to keep going. But it's a good way to definitely lower the cost of how expensive it'll be to build this garage. I do want to reiterate to everybody, anything that the GoFundMe has ever raised, all of that money is still completely dedicated to the Mansard roof. I have not used any of the funds you guys have given me to do anything with these machines, and nor will I spend any of that money to build the new shop. And since we're talking about the Mansard roof, I did actually want to get back up there a little bit today, so let's go up there. I need to put some preservative on that wood I've already uncovered, so join me. So I was able to fight off the mosquitoes and get a protective layer on that exposed woodwork, which makes me happy. Also, I almost got into a fight with a squirrel up there. I need to take some preventative measures against the squirrels. The largest of which will probably be pruning a lot of the trees around the house. So the axe is a lot more difficult for the squirrels to get up there in the first place. Also, in very, very amazing news, we finally do have a date for when work will really start on the Mansard roof. So essentially Eric, my historic carpenter, the guy you heard a lot about last week, has all the amazing machines, has more or less said September through December is the Charles S. Brown House Mansard project timeline. Of course, we would both love to start it sooner. However, the weather the way it is makes it really difficult, especially because the front of the house, the Mansard part of the house, or the stone fronted part of the house, is south facing, which makes it very hot. You know, the sun is on you all day long up there. Maybe you guys have even noticed in time lapses that I tend to either work very early in the day or very late in the day when it comes to the front of the house, because the sun is really brutal. It's also one of the main reasons why the Mansard looks like it does. It looks terrible because the sun beats everything that's over there. So pretty miraculous that a lot of that woodwork has actually survived, considering it's been in direct sunlight for 130 plus years. Now on to a few really cool things I did off camera. One other extremely exciting tidbit about the Mansard roof that I discovered this last few weeks was this. This is a catalog of the Pulis Brother companies. They are a decorative or ornamental ironworks company that existed in St. Louis since the 1850s. I don't exactly know when they went out of business, but if you'll notice this piece of cresting right here, which of course is the iron, the decorative iron that goes at the top of Mansard roofs, this is my pattern. This is the pattern that was chosen by either Mr. Brown or his wife, and that's would have been adorned at the top of my roof. Which is great news, the best news, because now not only does this little catalog have the dimensions of the iron on it, so I know exactly how tall it was, it also has the clearest, it also is extremely clear. So I can reproduce that exact piece of ironwork, of course at a later date, but it means I have the roadmap now to get my ironwork and the Mansard roof as a whole back to its original 1890 standard, which of course is the goal. I have that photo, it is my blessing and my curse. I must do every detail exact on that roof. I would like to give a big shout out to Dan, who actually sent me that about 2 or 3 days after I'd actually found it myself, which is really amazing and a really huge coincidence because I've been looking for it for a long time. But Eric, again, my historic carpenter, was talking to me and telling me most of the ironwork here in St. Louis was made by the Polish brothers. So I looked up a Polish brothers catalog and boom, there it is. Amazing stuff. So thank you, Dan, for your extremely diligent research. Dan has found a huge plethora of history for this house. And he is really, really an amazing fellow, and he's just doing it to do it. So Dan, if you're out there, if you're watching, which I'm sure you are, buddy, thank you so much, man. You really do find a lot of amazing stuff. And then of course, Eric, who is just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to all things old house. He just understands, especially late Victorian homes. The dude just gets it. And you know, he's been hands-on with so much of this stuff that he just knows where to look for the right things. And so, again, I just happen to be surrounded by some amazing people that make things just come up. And so, yeah, couldn't be more excited, and I hope you guys are excited about that as well. So let's change the scenery up a bit and head it to the hallway. Now these two paintings I was able to get here in the last 2 weeks for very, very inexpensive, but we'll talk about those later. You'll also notice that there's a light in the hallway. And it's not being run from extension cord, which is what a lot of things are ran on around this area for the longest time. And that's because I did this. And this is so much nicer than what it was before. So basically, it was so hot this week that I decided to run some electrical. And the reason I didn't shoot it is because it's really boring, it's really tedious. So this was just something I wanted to kind of get out of the way. Now, if we look up to the ceiling, you can see I've added 2 lights. This is actually where the original light was. If I put my finger over it, you can actually see the pipe for the old gas line. And this light bulb here is actually attached to the old gas line. Now, of course, these gas lines are way cut. They're very off. There's nothing going to them. In fact, most of them have been removed before me, and I have since removed quite a few of them in the basement as well. So yeah, no gas to that. And nor will there ever be gas to those lines again. But those lines are very structural, and so you can screw a new chandelier into them. There was also a medallion on here that a while back I actually took down very carefully, so it's not destroyed. It's a very small one, but it will be added to this light and eventually to that one. Now this one I added because this entire zone right here was extremely dark. For reference, this is the door to the maid's stairs that go up right here. This is the bathroom that I worked on a while back with this beautiful floor for those who haven't seen. And that goes to the front stairwell with a beautiful view of the trash can currently. You know, again, this is kind of a construction zone, so things are not always as clean as I'd like them to be. But you know, lots of beautiful woodwork in this area, and it was so incredibly dark here, you just couldn't see anything. One additional light off the original scheme, but we were able to keep where this light was originally in its original position, which I'm quite happy with. And once all this woodwork is stripped and redone, it's going to look so nice. I mean, I've shown this before, but check out the curly pine on these panels here. This is the door that goes to the dining room. And man, those are gorgeous. And yes, we've done quite a bit of stripping before this, of course, but it was very difficult because you couldn't really ever see it. Even with the light coming in from the door and the transom window up here on the side door, you really couldn't see anything. Also, this is the door we use most of the time. And so with this light, I've noticed that I've been able to actually see my keys to unlock the door. So it's been very, very nice and a huge upgrade. And the way that this light is running is there's actually an outlet down here. So it's the hallway. It only really needs one outlet. So we gave it one outlet. I think this is a perfect place. A nice little side table here would be quite nice. I mean, look how wide the hallway is. Atlas here is about the average size of a typical German Shepherd. He's half German Shepherd, half Husky. He's about 100 pounds, so you can see it's a nice, very wide, very generous hallway. So a nice little cute table here, maybe a bit thinner than this one, would think be absolutely perfect right here. And of course, having some paintings and some decoration, I think would really make this place lovely. And of course, you can't help but, want to look at all the woodwork because it's fantastic as well. And see, the windows look quite nice into the bathroom with that really amazing art glass. Still happy with those. Now these paintings, I really don't know a huge amount about either of them. They are both real oil paintings. And I assume they're probably from somewhere in the 1800s. This one I know is probably from an art school or something like that, somebody doing a study of a painting, because this is actually a famous painting from the 1700s, mid 1700s, I think like 1750, by a female French artist. I forget her name. You can go ahead and post in the comments and I will give you an upvote so everybody can know who made that piece. I believe it's called Mother with Child, and I think this is a self-portrait, so I believe this is actually the artist and her daughter. Now again, this is not that actual piece. This is made by a different guy. And to me, it looks like Edwin Weinstock. You'll have to give that a whirl and tell me if you guys find anything. And then of course, it's not the most technically impressive thing in the world. Obviously, you know, very blocky shapes here. But I think they did a very, very good job on the faces, and it's a beautiful piece. And the frame's not half bad either, and it was extremely cheap. It was like 40 bucks. So, you know, I can't turn down a pretty impressive oil painting for 40 bucks, even with its little damage. At some point, I'm gonna have to do some touch-ups up here as well. At some point during this journey, I'm going to be a machine restorer, a house restorer, and an art restorer. So we'll see how that goes. But at least I have a background in art, so I already have a head start in the direction of repairing things like this. This other painting, I don't know. Again, got a pretty amazing deal on it. I think this one's really beautiful. I love the oval shape to it. Of course, it's missing a frame. Actually don't think the frame itself was fully oval. It was probably square. Had the corners on it, kind of like how my fingers are now, and then had a square frame. A lot of the times that's how I see paintings done like this, or hung like this. That's the frames I would see them in. So eventually I will probably have to build a frame for this. Again, that's where the woodworking tools come in quite handy. But it's just kind of lovely, if not maybe a bit creepy. She definitely needs some cleaning because nobody's skin is that color. And again, there are some very, very minor damages like this and like there, but nothing to be too concerned about. The other thing about it is I did not see an artist name anywhere. If for some reason I come across one, I will let you guys know, but even on the back, there's really nothing. And for anybody asking how I hung these are just screws put in through the plaster to hit a lath. Yes, that is a no-no if you are trying to restore a wall. Definitely don't put holes in it like this. It's inappropriate. You would usually use a picture rail up at the top here and then hang wires down. And that's how these paintings will eventually be hung here in the house. But to keep them out of damages way and things like that, it's easier to store art on a wall. And this is an area that we traffic quite a lot, and having something beautiful to look at every day I think is, well, it's nice. If anything, you know, I look at a lot of broken things all day, and to look at two, well, I guess they're broken too, but they're still beautiful things, you know, just lifts the mood a bit. And for the walls, they're already pretty busted. There's a lot of repair I have to do here. You know, things like the HVAC system had to come through here, obviously these electrical lines. So, you know, these are minor damages that I'll have to repair. And should be fairly easy, but damages nonetheless. What's two little holes? Not a big deal. And on the air conditioning front, I don't know if I ever showed you guys this, but this is how we in a historic home have decided to run air conditioning. These grates right here are not original. They're actually reproductions, but they are still cast iron, and I think they look rather fantastic. They have louvers so you can move, you know, with a flow from side to side, and I think they look absolutely amazing. And you know, if I stand back, would you ever know that that wasn't an original part of the house? And to be honest, I've had a lot of people through here and nobody has ever said a word about them, which is probably the best compliment you can have when you're trying to retrofit a house like this, when people don't even know it exists. So I think we did a pretty good job. And here again, right out front of the bathroom, this is our cold air return. There are others in the house, but I wanted to point out these two to you guys because now you can actually see them because it's not dark in here any longer. And yes, that's currently where we store our toilet paper, right outside the bathroom. So it's, you know, work in progress. I still need to build some shelves in here at some point. Now, directly behind this wall is the drawing room, or the second parlor, the one with the inlaid floors. You guys have probably seen that in the past. I've definitely shown it in the past. But right here is actually one of the pockets for the giant pocket doors we have here at the house. And we found something really, really, really cool in here, and I can't wait to show it to you. So this is the hole. You know, I've got a little flashlight pointed down through here. You can kind of see a bit more of what's going on. Right here, that little line is the track. Right up here, this is the door, or the back of the door. These are the studs, so this side here, and this side here. But when I open this up to run this electrical line, which is running on this side of the wall here through this way, I noticed down in this corner that there was a bunch of little papers all folded up, bundled up, basically as they'd got pushed back when the door closed. So when they opened the door all the way, that door would slide down that track all the way back to this little stop. You can just see the ridge of the stop. And back against that stop was a bunch of folded paper, which of course got me immediately excited. Paper means new finds, means new dates, means, well, a lot of things. It could be anything, right? So I opened it up, and this is what I found. Okay, so here is what I found. These two magazines right here are from 1897, and they are called School and Home. We can see pretty clearly at the back that it says November 16th, 1897. So really interesting, very old. These are definitely from the time of Mr. Brown. And you can see right there, there's the part that I know it's called School and Home. There's an and there. Of course, the papers are all split in half, and these seem like these were little fun things for the kids to have. And Mr. Brown, of course, had young children in 1897. So I assume these would have been from them. This one, I believe, is called Classmate, and it's just a kind of a good guess. Obviously, there's mate here, and there's looks like a C-L-A-S-S there to me, so the Classmate. And again, this is from November 6, 1897, and this one is more complete this way, but of course there's more chewing going on. Obviously, there were some type of animal using this as bedding at some point. However, this is really, really cool, and again, something that the Brown kids probably would have held in their hands. If we come over here to this little piece, this is a little thing called Collection Witzhof or something like that. This is actually all in German, which is interesting. I have not found any dates on it. And it seems to me that it is some kind of directory for, well, music talent. So right there we have violins. Here's piano, zwei Violinen, and vier Violinen, which would be 2 violins and 4 violins. So this must be some sort of band registry. However, in the back, there is some handwriting, and I haven't entirely been able to read all of it, and of course I'm sure that. And so you can pause and try to read this, but as far as I can see, it all looks like it's in English. Of course, doesn't have to be. Of course, the second owner, Dr. Yeneman, was German, but being found in this collection here, I believe that's older than Dr. Yeneman's presence here in the house. Of course, doesn't mean it was. It was further forward than any of this stuff, so potentially this is from a later date, but not quite sure, so kind of interesting. I'm pretty sure that Mr. Brown didn't speak German. I can't be positive of that, but Mr. Brown was not of German heritage, so don't know. But the real winner here is actually a piece of junk mail, if you can believe it. This says, a big bargain. The owner of the houses, number 601 through 607, you can just see the 7 here. Maybe there was more, so maybe it was a larger row of houses. Ella Avenue, a description which I've sent you a few days ago, will take $1,000 less than the price quoted. You can purchase equity for $3,500. This is a decided bargain. Do you want it? 716 Chestnut Street. So that's kind of interesting and kind of fun on its own. It's a little piece of junk mail. But on the back, check out who it's addressed to. That's right, it's Chaz S. Brown. At my address, which is really, really wonderful. Now, of course, when you touch the walls and the doors here, you are touching things that Mr. Brown touched before. However, this is the very first thing I have found with his name on it that directly came to him. And now I cannot make out on this stamp here an actual date other than October at 9 p.m. So I don't know the exact date. It's probably around the same era as this stuff, maybe even a little bit earlier. But this is really, really wonderful and something I'm definitely getting framed. These things probably will be too at some point. Who knew a piece of junk mail could be so interesting? Or at least to me it is. You guys will have to let me know how you all feel about it. But to me, this is a really cool piece of history and the first piece of evidence I found in the house that has his name on it, that truly was his, that definitely passed through his hands, even if it was very briefly. Now about those addresses on Ella Avenue, it seems like all of them have since been torn down, which again, another sad story, but you know, that is the story of St. Louis from the 60s until now. We love tearing things down, which is remarkably sad. However, it would be interesting to know if he actually did end up buying these houses from this piece of junk mail. That would be another really cool bit of history. But I haven't been able to dig deep enough into the tax records to find out if that is true or not, and I kind of slightly doubt it. Either way, I still think it's an extremely cool treasure that I was able to find, and I might be popping some holes in the other pocket doors that are stuck just to see what's back there. You know, patching a little piece of plaster to repair that kind of hole, it's no problem at all. It's a really easy fix. So definitely worth it to do a little bit of damage to find a lot of bit of history. So I don't know, for me, that's a real treasure. Okay, so that about wraps up this week's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. I know it's not a lot of work footage, but to be honest, I did a lot off camera and I was really battling the heat. So it takes that of you. Anybody who's worked outside when it's been, you know, well over 100 degrees, especially with the heat index, knows. It takes it out of you pretty quick. There is a few other little tidbits of news this coming up month, which is August. There will be 2 weeks that I will be out of town. No, this is not a vacation, this is a work trip. I have to go to Mexico. Actually, this is a completion of Kim's job. Kim is, of course, unable to travel, so I have to take up the candle. So the deal was she would do all of the at-home work, and when we had to go to set, I am now going to go to set. So I'm gonna be going to work on a game show, so it'll be interesting. I guess I'll let you guys know a little bit about that, or whatever I can let you know about that after I sign my non-disclosure. So it is unfortunate, but what it does, as usual, is it does bring more funds to do more amazing things here and speed up certain processes on this end. However, that trip also marks the end of Kim's job. So that means you'll be seeing more of this wonderful, wonderful lady. And we'll bring her more back into the videos. I know you guys have all been asking about that.
Yeah, just been a busy bear. Also, you know, doing some cleaning stuff on the side, so.
Also, there was a few comments on the machine video that said, are you sure your wife's okay with this?
Yes, no, I'm super excited about the machines because, you know, once we get the shop going, you know, that's our future. You know, that'll be our business. And then I won't have to work a job like I've been doing. So, you know, that'll be our job.
This is actually one of the only projects I've seen her somewhat excited about, so.
Caleb, shut up. I'm just lazy and tired and sleepy and taking naps, you know.
Usual stuff.
Yeah, usual stuff. But yeah, no, it'll be good, you know, when we get that all going, and I think it'll be a lot of fun for both of us to work on that, you know, and me be his assistant and help with the books and stuff too, so.
She'll just keep her fingers a bit further away from the blades.
Yeah.
So that is for sure gonna do it, guys. I hope you guys have a fantastic week, and we'll see you guys again next time.
Thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye-bye.